Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to do something really exciting. We are going to create a bonsai forest. So we see three different trees here. They're all Ficus Ginseng, so not the most traditional form of plant for a forest, but I think this could look really nice. You can see two plants here that I actually just recently purchased, so they are still in the pot that they came in one of those little plugs basically. And another tree that I've had for now roughly a year that basically looked the same back in the day, but is a bit shorter, so you can definitely see this one is the smaller variety of the three. But of course, I do enjoy this different height in those trees, and they definitely gonna look nice as a forest constellation. And of course, for starting with that, we will have to remove those two trees from the soil they're in, because I do not want to actually take that soil. Let me move the one to the side in the beginning, and we start with the first one. Simply removing the pot, so of course we have to loosen it a bit. It is planted in coco coir, which is often the case with those little plugs because it retains the water quite well. You can see how the soil is still, for example, moist down here, starting to dry out a little bit here in the middle. It is inexpensive, that's why they often use it also, and it is especially well for transport because as it retains the moisture so well, the tree benefits from that by simply, you don't have to water it that often when it is in transport, and of course that's what the producers of those little plugs are trying to avoid, to have them die while in transport. You can see always a problem with these ones. In coco coir, they don't really develop any roots. I until now have not really found any strong roots here. Here I start to see the first finer roots. So I'm also taking the soil off quite carefully because I don't want to damage any of those roots, because they seem to be extremely newly developed only now and extremely fine also still. Because on a Ficus Ginseng, this is part of the root, and then they basically cut it off and root it again to create the finer feeder roots here. And that is often done in transit also, so you see these only now developing actual roots. So I might even leave some of the soil on it right now that will wash off later on when we water this tree again and again. We just have freed it so it can actually then move into the inorganic soil we will pot it in. But for now, I will leave on some of this soil. I will put it back in this pot here. It has some moisture to it still, so I'm not too worried that it will dry out right away now as we're working on it. I will just make sure we're working on it quickly, and the same holds true for this one. Even here you can see it is slightly drier even than the other one. I do like the look of this one as well. It is very bulbous here. It has this side arm that basically died back because it was not in soil, but I think we will leave that on as well because it gives it an interesting gnarly old look. We also have then here a little side branch or side root that just gives this some interesting look. We'll see how well the root system is developed here, but I don't have high hopes, to be honest. I hope we will see roots on both of these separate roots here, so they are viable, both of them. Gives us, of course, also in the future more opportunity to, or possibility to work on this and maybe take one or the other off. And I do see some roots here on the little one already, so I'm not too worried that we won't have any roots on this one. That would be quite surprising now. But I do see again, not really strong roots, not very healthy looking roots here. So yeah, some smaller ones here that seem to have dried up actually. So there is not much roots on this one here, just here, a little finer one. But all the way down here, not as much as I would have hoped for, definitely. So again, also here, I won't go too far into also taking out the soil from here. I can see this has also actually died back a little bit. It feels a bit hollow. So I will simply leave this on for now, and the next time we might repot this, then I will also cut it from this point if I see more roots developing up here, as there is finer ones already starting to develop. Here we can still remove some of the soil, but that is it. Let's move also this one to the side, and also look at this one here, of course the third one we have, and this one we can simply take out here. I have not in any way secured this in this pot. It was in very rough pumice that I did a trial on with this one, and this one already has developed a nicer root system definitely than the newer ones we see right now. So So definitely something we can work with. Also this one I will put to the side. We'll clean up here real fast and then we actually start to repot these. So I quickly removed the cocoa coir from our working spot here and I already prepared the pot. I put some ground layer of very rough pumice in here because it is very great for drainage actually. So in a bigger pot like this, I don't want to fill it all with very fine inorganic soil. I want to give it a bit of a ground layer with quite thick pumice pieces. You can see they are different size, but there are some quite chunky ones in here as well, which I actually, the one tree before I had in that mixture alone, which is maybe a bit too much, but as a ground layer, I do find it quite nicely on those trees. What we will do then is put some of the finer soil mix in here to already create a nice layer also on this, on which the roots will rest then, so they will be covered by that finer mix also. And we will start to see how we can position those trees. Because I want to, of course, give it a nice composition basically. So I want to have maybe two like this and the smaller, or this one a bit out to the side, the tallest one in the middle here, with this arm going backwards. And then this one also like moving a bit out here, maybe even like moving a bit over the rim of the pot here. So we'll simply start to give it a first initial filling here, but we will need more soil. So let me rest this for a second, prepare more soil so we can actually continue with that. So I will start from this side, as I said, and try to secure those two trees here. So let me just very, very roughly fill out the area here just to get an initial position on those two trees. I do like that I have a bit of space here in the front, and then I can move this one here actually a bit to the front here. So giving the illusion that it's already a bit bigger than it actually is, because it is, as you can see, not that big. Making sure that the roots are covered in here. We'll also fill out the pot here with some soil to give it this initial stability in here. And we move around and really make sure we fill everything in. Here it's a bit more in the back, but do enjoy that actually. Here we might move it a bit up still, I think. Looking again from all the different angles. Yeah, I do enjoy that actually. It looks like very old and gnarly. It reminds me almost like a sort of a cemetery scene in a movie where you have those gnarly old looking trees standing together. So I do like that look it gives. So that is definitely the vibe I'm going for with this constellation in here. Let me make sure that this one is really, really covered, because we had some very high roots on here. So I need to make sure those roots are actually covered. So especially this middle tree that didn't have a lot of roots further down on the stem is nicely covered and can also really, really thrive in here in the future. So let me just fill in some more soil in here and just spread it all around the pot here. So this can be quite liberal actually when it comes to the soil, and really fill this up to the brim. I think the round pot is actually working quite well with this constellation, because I find something interesting to look at from all different angles here, to be honest. I do love this side as well, because it brings this one more prominently and it hides a little bit the other one in the back. And the same from most of these sides actually. So with constellations like that, when it really comes to a forest bonsai piece, I always like either an oval or a round pot, because it simply makes it so interesting to look at it from different angles and see really how it looks in 3D then really. So to really look at the space that you're working with. The foliage we're not going to work on today, definitely not. I don't want to stress those trees too much, and I want to let them grow quite freely. We will, of course, in the future also make sure like what we can do with here, maybe create a new path that is actually moving here over the pot a little bit. This probably filling in more an area here, the smaller one here, to also in the future create a triangle shape with those three trees. I think that will be doable. I might move this one still a bit to the side already to set it up more for height here in the middle. But in general, I'm very, very happy with the way this turned out. And I love that these trees, though the same variety, are looking so different to each other. You have this middle one that fills out a lot of space in this pot. It looks quite strong and quite prominent. You have this very dainty one to the side here. Also nice S shape. In this case, I do like the S shape quite well. And the chunkier one here that I'm not sure if this part has died back or not, but I do like this little nub we have here, and then the growth all to the side with some growth also starting here. So definitely working also very well in this constellation. And giving you again a view from different sides, I think this works very, very well also in this clay pot, which is just a terracotta pot that I think for an initial pot in here works quite well. As we have more coarse or more chunky pieces down here in the bottom, I don't think the roots will grow too far down. They will probably spread a bit more here where the soil is finer. And that of course also will help us in the future to maybe move to a more shallow pot also once we have more roots. But I saw already with this tree right here that they do work quite well in inorganic soil, and that the root development is definitely picking up the pace once they get out of that very, very bad coco coir that really doesn't simply work for those trees because it retains moisture. It doesn't really give it air to breathe and to really develop its roots. But what I will do now with this constellation is give it a very, very good soaking. So we'll probably water this now 2-3 times to really make sure the water starts to run clear, because there's a lot of sediment, of course, on this inorganic soil. I want to wash all this sediment, the very fine sediment, out so it doesn't clog basically all the fine roots. And once the water starts to run clear from the drainage hole, that is normally a good point where you can then let this, of course, then simply take its course, and once it dries out, so the top layer dries out, then water it again. Ficus Ginseng in itself is very hardy, so I think this constellation will get nicely developed in the future and give me a lot of opportunity to work on it still. But as of now, I'm very, very happy with the way it looks. So I will keep you updated, of course, on the development of this constellation, on the Simpred trees. We will work on future videos also on the foliage and on shaping it. I have already started here a little bit of wiring on this one, as I had it in training for a bit longer already, and that will also then happen with those two here. So we'll keep you updated on this constellation. If you have any questions about it, of course, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will answer them as soon as I see them. If you have any ideas and suggestions for this forest or any other ideas for forests, feel free to also leave those in the comments. Always am happy to hear your inspiration on what else there is in the realm of bonsai that we can try. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did so, feel free to leave a like. And if you enjoy my channel, of course, feel free to subscribe to it. Hopefully I will see you in the next video then. Until then, take care.